Hello and welcome to Drop Balls and Big Calls, episode 0. This is a podcast about resilience, grief, setbacks, fightbacks, and anything in between. We aim to talk to everyday legends, leaders, musicians, athletes, and more. Because of the topics we're going to be talking about throughout these episodes, I thought it was really important to sit down with you for episode 0. I feel it's important for you to learn the why behind the podcast, but also learn about me, Jason, your host. This idea came about actually from my partner because if I'm going to be asking really difficult questions and encouraging people to open up about their lives, their setbacks, it's only fair that I do the same. Question that came through when I put this out was, what does drop balls and big calls actually mean to you? And a couple of people didn't quite understand the terminology. So probably really important that I explain that. So I love my sport. Primarily rugby league and cricket would be probably the two main things, obviously motorsport as well. But in those sports, it's, rugby league or cricket, it's, if you drop the ball, the pressure's on, right? It's no different to life. You might drop the ball on the housework or drop the ball in communicating in your relationship, drop the ball at work and put pressure on the rest of your team. That's sort of why I thought the terminology of drop balls was really important. Big calls, you go through life making big calls. Sometimes you don't even necessarily understand that call is a big call. An example for me would be packing up and leaving New Zealand at the age of 21 and moving to Melbourne. That was a big call, right? It's a big life change. Drop balls and big calls is about going through life, navigating setbacks, navigating the times that you've dropped the ball and taking accountability for that and making the big calls to move forward. That's essentially what this is about. It's resilience, taking accountability. What kind of conversations am I chasing here? I want people to be real. I want people to be really honest and break out of their shells, because that's incredibly hard to do. As I do my own therapy and inner work, it's the same thing. And again, if I'm not being authentic and taking accountability and doing that myself, how can I expect others to do that? So those are the conversations that I'm chasing, the conversations that I want to have with others. And it's primarily to learn from them, but to inspire you. So those are the conversations that I'm chasing. This is about people that are battling every day just to put one foot in front of the other. It's from the ground up. That's what we're looking at. Just everyday battlers, and also some of the successful people in their careers as well. But as Dom Harvey says, you don't get through life without adversity. So I want to learn about those things and how people have gotten through it, and I'm sure you do too. The next question that came through was what moments shaped who you are today? There's been many, I'd say. I think moment number 1 would probably be through high school. I was quite overweight. Had a lot of battles internally with body image and emotional eating, things like that, and just meant that I obviously got my fair share of bullying. Not to say I wasn't partaking in some of those actions myself. Kids can be cruel, and that, obviously had an effect as well. I didn't feel seen. And that led into probably me picking up the drum kit in my first year of high school. That was a place where I could channel my energy, some of my anger, my anxiety. I could channel it into that. It wasn't all smooth sailing learning the drums though. I got probably my first 6 months, I got really frustrated with the instrument and it wasn't natural to me whatsoever. No coordination whatsoever, and it just didn't make sense. And eventually I stopped actually going to my lessons, and it wasn't until my drum teacher at the time, Jonathan Tressler, he cornered me near the music block one day and basically in no uncertain terms said, look, if you don't come to your lesson today, that's it. We're cancelling them going forward. So I took that on board. I went to the music room and he was playing a drum solo. I don't know if I've ever told him this, but he was playing a drum solo and I just sat there outside the door and listened. I made sure he didn't see me. Or maybe he did, I don't know. But I just sat there listening. I was like, this guy's good. And if he's that good, I'm sure he can teach me and he can get me to a point. And man, the drums sound good when they're played like that. So that was a pivotal moment, really, and led to probably the next decade of my life after that, longer actually, and led me to make some of the biggest calls in my lifetime to date. So pretty much every lunchtime from then onwards, outside of lessons, I was playing the drums. My music teacher at the time, Tanya Webb, she was amazing to us, me and a couple of friends that wanted to be in a band at the time together. She'd let us take instruments home in the holidays, and that meant so much because we came from families that couldn't afford half of that gear. And yeah, I was so lucky to have two teachers that really cared, because I couldn't say that for all of them. There were other teachers there that were more focused on probably just getting their paycheck or following the curriculum rather than focusing on what I wanted to do with my life and my strengths. And this, some of that I've held grudges with over the years. But yeah, so Jonathan, Tanya, thank you so much if you're listening to this. You made such a huge difference to my childhood and where I wanted to go in my life, and you actually gave me hope. So yeah, I hope you do hear this, because it meant a lot. After high school, I was just fed up being overweight, and to be honest, I was really struggling to find work. I left school early, year 12. I made that decision because the school decided to cut my music classes. They were more worried about, not shaving a little bit of fluff on my chin than actually helping me get an education. So I ended up just making the decision to leave. And, I thanked my family for supporting me in that decision at the time. But I had to find work, and I just couldn't. I think, obviously, it takes a lot for someone to take a punt on a kid that's just left high school, no qualifications, no experience. And I was also overweight. So there was probably this impression that I was lazy. And I just got fed up with, one, how I felt, how I looked, and potentially how I was perceived. So made the decision to do something about that. Another big call to just start getting back into rugby league. So it started with just some short runs around the block, and then eventually joined a gym and just started building cardio and strength and doing some training drills that I learned in junior rugby league in the park up the road. And eventually the weight started coming off, and then I ended up over about a year and a half losing nearly 40 kilo. And that just gave me a lot of confidence. Obviously, playing rugby league, I started to make some friends again. I finally found some work through a friend. And so, you're earning your paychecks. I joined a band called Drift, and things were starting to look up. So yeah, that was a really pivotal moment in my life. It just gave me some confidence and belief that there's more, and there's hope. What are other moments that have shaped me? Now, I'm probably going to get quite jumbly in this timeline, because it's just I'm just getting a lot of flashbacks about, these pivotal moments throughout my life. Look, another one was actually my grandparents taking me to a barbecue at the campground across the road in Waikuku. They'd met this American family and wanted to introduce me to their son and their daughter. So went over there for this barbecue, and that's where, well, I effectively, inherited another family in many respects. But, my best friend, who I consider my brother, Kevin Jeffcoat, he was their son, who had Duchenne muscular dystrophy. But, I never saw the wheelchair necessarily. Like, obviously I was curious about his condition and everything, but he was just an awesome bloke, like so funny. And I just remember thinking he was so smart, like so, real passionate about history and politics and music, and and sport for that matter. And we just really connected from day one. And from there, we were pretty much inseparable. Even more so, once I got my driver's license and we could go and drive his family van, load him up, and would go out to a bar and watch a game, or would go to the movies, or have a meal out or whatever. But it was instrumental to my life meeting him at that time. Those kind of things. Sorry, that meeting him still has an amazing effect on me to this day. Our relationship, what it meant, it meant everything to me, really. So, and it's shaped who I am today. And it's, meant that I've focused on some really important fundraising efforts and things over the years because of the difference he made in my life, but also the difference that the muscular dystrophy community and the care staff made in our lives. For us, we didn't see any boundaries. The only time there was sort of any boundaries was if, there was a venue he couldn't get his wheelchair into. But, we always found a workaround for things like that. And, even kicking the ball around a park, like he would chase me around and I'd kick the ball towards him. And, just such random stuff, playing computer games. We lived a pretty normal, fun childhood, So meeting him was probably one of the biggest moments that shaped my life over the years. Yeah. Probably another big, I'm going to say a series of moments was sort of that probably 2010 through to 2012. Like that was a massive, massive few years. Reason being, obviously, 2010, we had the first of the Christchurch quakes, magnitude 7.1 in Darfield. Never experienced anything like that before. Obviously, we had earthquake drills and stuff at school, and we had minor ones over the years. But yeah, that really demonstrated how powerful Mother Nature was. And I was at a partner's house at the time, and it just like 4 o'clock in the morning, and I just remember waking up and it sounded like a freight train heading towards the house, and it just got louder and louder, and then the most violent shaking you've ever seen. And your mind in those moments just has no idea what's going on, and it feels like it goes on forever. Like it might be 50 seconds to a minute, but it just goes on and on and on, and there's things falling around you. It's dark. That was the first of a series of events. And then obviously, February 2011, we had the 6 point, I think it was a 6.1 or 6.2, whatever the hell it was. Doesn't matter. Either way, it was a lot worse than the one the year before. Yeah. Obviously, the people that are from Christchurch know how devastating that was. Lost communications, the river flooded out our area, the bridges were all torn up and it was difficult to get out. There was no power, no sewage, and you couldn't even call anyone, right? So you didn't know how anyone was doing, but you're hearing there's fatalities in the city. Horrific. You're so completely numb and you've got no control. We didn't even hear from my brother until 10 o'clock that night that he was safe and he made his way home. But the communications were awful and we didn't know who was alive and who wasn't. And obviously the days after that, just like the year before, it's just constant aftershocks. And we had to move house quite a lot. This is when I first, not long after I moved out on my own, because the sleep out at my mum's house where I was living was completely flooded and needed to be redone. So we moved out on my own, and we ended up moving house a couple of times. Lots of roadworks, cracks in the walls, aftershock after aftershock. And I remember the narrative at the time of it's going to take 15 to 20 years to rebuild this city. And as a 20-year-old that is an aspiring musician that wants to enjoy his youth in many respects, wasn't conducive to that. And it just got to a point where I was just fucking over it. And I had a couple of failed relationships as well that was weighing on me. And we went on a family holiday to Queensland early 2012. I remember my dad met me up there, and my stepmom for that matter met me up there on the second last day of the trip. And I said to him, I'm going to move to Queensland as soon as I can. I'm pretty done with Christchurch, and here we go. We're going to move to Queensland. And he said, no, come to Melbourne in a couple of months to the Grand Prix. Stay at ours. They'd moved to Melbourne the year before. Come stay with us. Come to the Grand Prix and see what you think. And so I did. A couple of months later, I went to the Grand Prix. The sound of the Formula One cars at that time, unbelievable. Everything I dreamed of and more to be at that event. And explored the city a fair bit at that time, and I just fell in love with it. I could tell it was a real cultural capital. And to me, it just was the next step. It felt like the logical thing to do. Yeah, a couple of months later, made the decision to move and handed in my resignation at my job, started applying for positions in June, booked my flights for July after my 21st birthday, and made the move. And yeah, the first couple of months was incredibly difficult, to be fair. Like, it was tough to get a job. And once I did get a job, I hated it. I auditioned for a few bands, and that was not easy at all. Knockback after knockback, Dracula's knocked back twice. Um, and so after 2 or 3 months, I'm going, what the hell have I done? Like, I think it's honestly time to start considering moving home. Like, you're completely out of your depth here. And it was only a night or two later, I got a call back from a band that had rejected me and basically saying that I had a change of heart. And that band was 10,000. And yeah, the next 5 years was dedicated to that band, and it changed my life. Those guys changed my life. There was definitely an element of imposter syndrome when I walked into that rehearsal room, and even after those initial rehearsals, they were just such incredible musicians that were like so well above where I was at, and it really challenged me. And they supported me all through that. They always had my back in those early years. And my first gig with them was a couple of weeks later at the SB in the Gershwin room. And I mean, what a baptism of fire to basically go from nearly wanting to move home to playing at this venue that all your childhood heroes had performed at in front of a rather large crowd. And that's probably when I've felt most alive, is being on stage with those guys in those environments. Just absolutely incredible experience to do that. And they really changed who I was as a person, really changed how I viewed myself, my confidence, and yeah, really thankful to them for those experiences. And then I know I'm probably getting quite rambly here in terms of these moments that shaped my life, but sort of after I think it must have been I've been living here about 5 or 6 years, and I remember thinking I'd had a chat to Kev, my best friend, my brother, one night. And this was a Sunday in early June, I think it was. I think 2016, can't remember. I just remember him feeling, well, I remember the call that there seemed to be a peace come over him. Like, and he basically said to me in this call, I can't remember the rest of the call, but I remember this moment where he said, oh, I've been going to the church a couple of times, and I just feel like I found something. I don't know what it is, but I feel like I found something. And he just seemed really peaceful. And there was something that felt really final about that call. And I said to my partner, Maddie, at the time, that was a really strange call. I don't know if he feels like something's coming or what, but there was just something really final about that call. And I don't know, 2 to 3 days later, I was heading to work and I saw on my social media that there was an accident just outside of Waikuku in North Canterbury involving a van, and my gut sank, and I tried to put it out of my mind throughout the morning. And I got a call from Kevin's sister around, I don't know, 10 o'clock in the morning or something like that. And yeah, she couldn't get the words out. He'd passed away in a car accident, unfortunately. Yeah. And I think to this day, I'm still coming to terms with that. Like, I miss him so much, like, we don't just conversations about the Warriors or fuck, I don't know, the meaning of life, like whatever it was. I just miss those conversations. And anyway, after that, came home, tried to sort of push myself to get back into music, distract myself, typical male thing to do. And then, we started recording an album, and then my relationship failed for a variety of reasons. And to be fair, like, I talk about all these failed relationships, I don't blame anyone. So if my ex-partners are listening, like, no, I don't blame you for anything. There's no animosity there by any means. I can imagine at times I was particularly difficult I know there was times I couldn't get on my own way, wasn't a great communicator. And that's something I've really had to work on over the years. So yeah, those were two pretty significant things in 2016, and ended up spending the summer back home after we finished, a few weeks back home over Christmas, after we finished recording our album. And I just wasn't really the same after that. Like, the band was going through some changes that I didn't handle particularly well either. Once I came back to Australia, I just felt like I was failing at everything, and I was getting angry. I was taking things out on people, and I couldn't even get myself to a rehearsal room. I'd literally I'd get such like violent shakes. I didn't even want to be anywhere near the music industry. Didn't even want to live here in Australia anymore. I didn't know where I wanted to be fair. Yeah, ended up making the decision to leave the band. Around the same time, I met my fiance, who also changed my life. She's taught me a lot over the years. She's made me a better person. I've still got a lot of things to work out, but I'm so thankful that she came along. She came along at the exact right time that I needed her. And she's really challenged me and made me a better person. And then finally, probably the biggest one of all, was having my daughter 2.5 years ago, Willow. The morning she was born, like there is no, I cannot describe the wave of emotion that overcame me and the love that I felt. If you could bottle that up, you would be a very wealthy person. Like, just so special. So special. Yeah, she's really changed my life and makes me want to be a better person and be a good dad, be an emotionally available dad, be a dad that will do anything for his family, be a dad that even when things are tough, he will keep turning up and he will put one foot in front of the other. And even when he gets it wrong, he will keep trying. Yeah, she's changed my life. And that's another reason I started this as well, because, she really inspires me and makes me want to be better and help others. So next question was, what scares you the most about being honest in public? Look, I don't think anyone's portrayal or image of me or, any hate that I get online is going to be greater than the hate that I give myself at times, to be fair. But look, part of it is that, like, I do really care what people think. As much as I'd like to say I don't, I really do. And I guess about being honest in public is people are going to know things about me that I've historically been really sheltered on. And I do worry about that perception and how it's going to affect me longer term. There's strength and vulnerability, as they say. But what I hope listeners get from this show is that they feel a sense of validation that the things that they're going through, others are experiencing as well, and that it's important we all share it and talk about it and learn from each other, so that we can handle those things better and get through life. I think that's probably the key thing I want people to take away from this. Who do you admire and why? Look, it's a hard one because there's so many people that have made an impact on my life and that I admire, and I don't want to leave people out, but there are three people that I want to mention. And please, if you're not one of these people, don't think that it doesn't mean you're not important to me or that I don't admire you. I just want to highlight these three people for a few different reasons. The first of which is my fiancée, Katie. I touched on it before. She's really challenged me over the years on some of my behaviors and shortcomings. She's just made me a better person, helped me articulate my emotions better, and deal with some of the hard things in life better too. Yeah, she's one person I really admire and really thankful that I met. Second is the singer of my old band, Jay Bowen. What can I say about Jay? Jay changed everything for me when I met him. Like, honestly, one of the funniest guys I've ever met. But the way he is with people, the way he goes about life, the way he is with his family and his friends was just always so inspiring. I firmly believe he made me the person I am today in many ways. I was a 21-year-old, self-conscious, in many ways depressed 21-year-old that had moved to Melbourne, and he challenged me, he pushed me, he inspired me. he's just an incredible human being. And look, I haven't repaid that over the years, really, and I should tell him these things more. He's just an amazing man, and I'm very, very grateful for everything he's done for me over the years, and his husband Mika too. Yeah, super grateful for both of those guys. And the third is my granddad. I said to my partner once that if there's anyone I wanted to role model, or any particular role model that stood out to me in my life over the years, it was my granddad, Martin. He was a hard work. He is a hard worker. He would do anything for his family, always at their beck and call. Ran his own business for many years, but yeah, I mean, what a great role model to have growing up. Again, I'm not trying to cut anyone else out here, particularly my family, but everyone was wonderful. We had a really loving family, but just if there's anyone I would role model my life off out of all of them, it would be him. He's just an incredible man. And again, I probably don't tell him enough. So yeah, an amazing family man, and an incredibly hard worker, and incredibly intelligent too. So I hope you got something out of this episode today. This was the reason I called it episode 0. Is this isn't about me. I don't want this to be about me, but we certainly felt it was really important that you knew the host and what was the motivating factors behind it, behind drop balls and big calls. Yeah, I hope you learn from every guest that we have on here. And I want to build a community through this. I want people to know that they're not alone. I have a lot of long-term goals for this podcast as well, and broader to that. But this is a starting point, and for me, I just hope we all learn something from it, and we can turn it into something really positive for the community. So yeah, if you've made it to the end of this, I really thank you for taking the time to listen. I know there's a lot of different podcasts out there that fill your airwaves in the car or on your runs or whatever it may be. But yeah, thank you so much for sharing this journey with me, and hope you continue to do so. Obviously, we're on a variety of platforms: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. We're on Spotify, YouTube, Amazon, iTunes, iHeartRadio. Please follow us on any of those platforms wherever you consume your content. And we're always up for suggestions as well. If you have any ideas or feedback or, any sort of recommendations for guests, all ears, get in touch, bigcallspod@gmail.com, or just send us a direct message through one of those channels. But again, thank you so much for listening.